We live in a world where excuses are as common as the air we breathe, constantly whispered to us by the mind in an attempt to soften the blows of our failures. These excuses are like chains that bind us to our past, denying us the freedom to rise and become the individuals we are meant to be. But we must ask ourselves, what is the cost of this comfort? What is the true price we pay for avoiding accountability? The Stoic leader knows that excuses are a lie, a fleeting defense against the reality that confronts us. They know that to grow, to become truly free, we must face our failures head-on, without the comforting balm of excuses. Only then will we be able to unlock the potential within us, to forge a path not bound by the limitations of our own self-deception, but driven by the power of our actions and decisions. 2. The freedom in accountability. To live a life of purpose, we must first learn to embrace accountability. It is not merely a matter of taking responsibility for our actions, but understanding that in doing so we unlock a power greater than any external force can offer. Accountability is the freedom that comes with mastering oneself. The Stoic leader knows that freedom does not come from external circumstances or the world's approval. It comes from the inner strength to accept full responsibility for one's own life, choices and decisions, irrespective of the outcomes. When we shift the blame to others, we relinquish our power. Blame gives us a false sense of relief, a fleeting comfort that allows us to avoid the discomfort of facing our role in a situation. But this is an illusion. The moment we point our fingers at others, we are chaining ourselves to the whims of their actions. We become prisoners of our own stories, and our growth remains stunted. It is only when we accept accountability that we can finally break free from these chains. The Stoic understands that they cannot control the actions of others. What they can control, however, is their response to those actions. They can control how they carry themselves in the face of hardship, how they navigate through failure, and how they rise when the world tells them to stay down. Accountability, then, is not merely an admission of fault, but a commitment to grow beyond it. To say, I am the architect of my life, and I take full ownership of everything that I create, good, bad, or otherwise, is to declare a radical form of personal sovereignty. This freedom is not a burden, it is a gift. It is the recognition that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we always have control over how we respond. When we take accountability, we reclaim the narrative of our lives. No longer do we allow our failures to define us, nor do we let the actions of others dictate the course of our destiny. In each moment, we are presented with a choice to own our part in a situation and grow from it, or to deflect responsibility and remain stagnant, waiting for someone else to change the world for us. The Stoic chooses the first, knowing that growth is the only true path to freedom. To be accountable is to stand in the full light of truth. It is the ability to look at the world without the distortion of excuses or the safety of blame. It is to understand that the trials we face are not the consequence of an unfair world, but the results of our own actions. This truth may be difficult to face, but it is in this very facing of truth that we are liberated. For once we accept responsibility for our choices, we gain the ability to change them. We gain the power to grow, to evolve, and to become better versions of ourselves each day. Consider the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who taught that it is not things themselves that trouble us, but our judgments about them. The same applies to accountability. It is not the failures themselves that limit us, but the excuses we create to avoid confronting them. When we blame others or external circumstances for our shortcomings, we are essentially saying, I am not in control of my life. But when we accept accountability, we assert the opposite. We say, I am in control. I am the one who shapes my destiny. The freedom that comes from accountability is a deep and transformative kind of freedom. It is not the freedom to do whatever we want without consequence, but the freedom to act with integrity, to be true to our values, and to grow from every experience. When we are accountable, we become more than passive participants in our own lives. We become active creators of our reality. Each choice, each action becomes a deliberate step towards the person we wish to become. Accountability is the foundation of personal strength. It is the root from which all growth and resilience stem. Without accountability, we remain at the mercy of the world around us, unable to chart our own course. But with accountability, we find the courage to take ownership of our lives, to rise above our failures, and to embrace the challenges that come our way. In every moment, we have the opportunity to choose how we respond to life's events. We can choose to blame, to deflect, and to avoid, or we can choose to accept responsibility, to learn from our mistakes, and to grow stronger in the face of adversity. The Stoic leader chooses the latter, knowing that only through accountability can they unlock the full potential of their inner power. To live with accountability is to live with clarity. It is to see the world for what it is, not through the lens of excuses or justifications, but through the lens of truth. And in that truth, we find the power to change, to evolve, and to live a life that is authentic and meaningful. The Stoic knows that this is the path to freedom, not the freedom to avoid responsibility, but the freedom that comes from fully embracing it. As you move forward in life, remember that every failure, every setback is an opportunity to exercise your freedom through accountability. Do not shy away from this power, for it is through this power that you will find the strength to overcome any challenge. Own your life, own your choices, and in doing so you will discover the greatest freedom there is the freedom to shape your destiny. 3. The illusion of perfection. Perfection is a myth, a dangerous and elusive idea that ensnares many who seek to walk the path of excellence. It whispers to us, promising that if we only reach a state of flawlessness, we will be content, at peace, and free. But this is a lie, for perfection is not a destination, it is a prison. To chase it is to remain shackled by unattainable ideals, to be constantly dissatisfied with the present moment, and to miss the true essence of life, which is growth, not stasis. The Stoic leader understands this fundamental truth. Perfection is not the goal, progress is. To demand perfection is to set oneself up for constant failure, for no human being, no matter how disciplined or virtuous, will ever reach a state of flawless existence. The very nature of life is imperfection. It is in the flawed, the incomplete, and the evolving that we find our purpose, our strength, and our humanity. It is through failure, mistakes, and lessons learned that we are sculpted into better versions of ourselves, not through the pursuit of some unattainable ideal. Consider the Stoic philosopher Seneca, who wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, but because we do not dare that things are difficult." This applies directly to the illusion of perfection. When we set perfection as the standard, we paralyze ourselves with fear, with the belief that anything less than flawless is unworthy. We become so obsessed with avoiding mistakes that we forget that they are often the very stepping stones to greatness. Perfection denies the beauty of the process, the growth that comes from imperfection, the lessons embedded in the mistakes we make. The Stoic does not seek perfection, but strives for virtue, wisdom, and self-mastery. They understand that the journey is more important than the destination, and that growth is a continuous, evolving process. Each day we are presented with opportunities to become better versions of ourselves, but this does not mean we must be perfect. It means we must be willing to learn, to adapt, and to improve, understanding that the process itself is where true value lies. In the pursuit of excellence, the Stoic leader recognizes the value of failure. They do not shy away from mistakes, but embrace them as essential parts of their growth. The fear of failure, driven by the desire for perfection, is the enemy of progress. It holds us back, prevents us from taking action, and keeps us trapped in a cycle of inaction and self-doubt. To overcome this, we must let go of the need for perfection and instead focus on doing our best in each moment, knowing that our best will not always be flawless, but it will always be enough. Perfectionism robs us of the richness of the human experience. When we demand perfection, we deny ourselves the opportunity to experience life fully, to take risks, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. Life is not a straight path, it is a winding road, full of detours and obstacles, some of which we will overcome with ease, and others with great difficulty. But it is through these experiences, through the imperfection of the journey, that we find meaning and fulfillment. The Stoic leader knows that to embrace the imperfections of life is to embrace the fullness of existence itself. To release the illusion of perfection is to free ourselves from the tyranny of comparison. When we measure ourselves against an unattainable ideal, we only create suffering. We become consumed by what we are not, rather than celebrating what we are becoming. The Stoic does not compare themselves to others or to some perfect version of themselves. They focus on the present moment, on the actions they can take today to improve, knowing that the path of growth is a lifelong journey, not a race to an end point. In every action, the Stoic seeks to do their best, not in the pursuit of perfection, but in the pursuit of virtue and excellence. They know that no matter how skilled or disciplined they become, they will never be perfect, and that is perfectly acceptable. For the Stoic, the true measure of success is not how close they come to perfection, but how diligently they strive to live in accordance with their values, how deeply they commit to their growth, and how relentlessly they pursue wisdom. The key is to shift our focus from perfection to progress, from flawlessness to improvement. The pursuit of progress allows us to be content with who we are in the present, while always striving to become better in the future. It encourages us to embrace the messiness of life, to welcome failure as a companion on the journey, and to learn from every step, every misstep, and every success. The Stoic knows that growth is not linear, and that the path forward is often paved with setbacks, but that each step, no matter how imperfect, is a step toward becoming the person we are meant to be. The illusion of perfection is an enemy of growth. It creates a standard so high that it paralyzes us, keeps us from acting, from taking risks, and from living fully. The Stoic leader embraces the reality of imperfection, understanding that it is through imperfection that we learn, that we adapt, and that we grow. They know that the beauty of life lies not in achieving some perfect state, but in the pursuit of continuous self-improvement, in the commitment to becoming the best version of themselves, not through perfection, but through the power of progress. In the end, it is not perfection that matters, it is the willingness to keep moving forward, to embrace our flaws, to learn from our failures, and to grow stronger each day. The Stoic does not chase perfection, but pursues virtue with unwavering dedication, knowing that in doing so they will uncover the true meaning and purpose of life. 4. Excuses are chains of the mind. Excuses are subtle thieves of potential, clever lies we tell ourselves to justify inaction, to avoid discomfort, and to escape responsibility. They are not merely words or fleeting thoughts. They are chains that bind the mind, holding us back from the freedom of growth and the fulfillment of purpose. The Stoic knows that to indulge in excuses is to give away power. It is to choose weakness over strength, to allow fear and complacency to dictate the course of one's life. An excuse is often born from fear, the fear of failure, judgment, or pain. It masquerades as protection, whispering to us that it is safer to remain where we are, to avoid the risk of falling short. But this protection is an illusion. Excuses do not shield us from failure, they ensure it. They block us from stepping into the arena of life where real growth happens. Every excuse is a wall we build between ourselves and our potential, a self-imposed limitation that keeps us from achieving greatness. The Stoic leader faces this reality with courage and clarity. They understand that while external circumstances may not always be in their control, their response to those circumstances always is. Excuses are the opposite of this control. They are the abdication of agency, the surrender of our power to act. When we say, "I cannot because of this," we are really saying, "I will not try because it is difficult." This mindset is poison to the soul, for it keeps us from embracing the very challenges that shape us into who we are meant to become. To break free from the chains of excuses, the Stoic practices brutal honesty with themselves. They look inward and ask, am I truly incapable, or am I simply unwilling to try? Am I limited by reality or by the story I am telling myself about that reality? These questions are not easy to face, for they force us to confront our own fears, doubts, and weaknesses. But this confrontation is necessary, for it is only by acknowledging the chains that we can begin to break them. The Stoic also understands that excuses often stem from a desire for comfort. The mind, seeking to avoid pain or difficulty, creates justifications for why action is unnecessary. It says, I will start tomorrow, or the circumstances are not ideal, or I do not have the resources. But the Stoic knows that waiting for perfect conditions is a fool's errand. There is no perfect time, no perfect place, no perfect scenario. The only time we truly have is now. To act in the present, despite its imperfections, is the hallmark of strength and resolve. Excuses thrive in the shadows of doubt and fear, but they wither under the light of action. The Stoic knows that the best way to silence excuses is not to argue with them, but to act despite them. When the mind says it is too hard, the Stoic responds by taking the first step. When it says, I am not ready, they reply, I will prepare as I go. Action, no matter how small, is the antidote to excuses. It is the declaration that we are in control, that we will not be held back by fear or complacency. Epictetus taught that we must focus on what is within our control and let go of what is not. Excuses, then, are distractions from this truth. They focus our energy on external obstacles, on circumstances beyond our power, rather than on our ability to respond to those circumstances. The Stoic shifts their attention inward, recognizing that the greatest obstacles are often those we create in our own minds. By overcoming these internal barriers, we unlock a strength that no external force can diminish. Excuses also rob us of the opportunity to grow through adversity. Each challenge we face is a chance to build resilience, to develop wisdom, and to prove to ourselves that we are capable of more than we thought. When we make excuses, we deprive ourselves of these opportunities. We choose comfort over growth, safety over strength. But the Stoic knows that true growth comes from stepping into discomfort, from facing challenges head-on, and from taking responsibility for the outcomes of our lives. To abandon excuses is not an easy task. It requires discipline, courage, and an unwavering commitment to truth. But the reward is immense. When we let go of excuses, we free ourselves from the limitations they impose. We take back the reins of our lives, reclaiming our ability to act, to grow, and to achieve. We become architects of our destiny, no longer constrained by the stories we once told ourselves. The Stoic leader speaks plainly to those who cling to excuses. You are capable of more than you realize. The obstacles you face are not insurmountable, they are challenges to be overcome. The reasons you give for inaction are not truths, they are fears dressed in the guise of logic. Let them go. Take ownership of your life. Act not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Do not let excuses define you. Let your actions, your courage, and your determination be the measure of your character. Excuses are chains, but they are chains we can break. They are not forged by the world, but by our own minds. Because they are of our own making, we have the power to unmake them. The Stoic chooses to live without excuses, knowing that every step taken in accountability, every action taken in defiance of fear, is a step toward freedom, strength, and purpose. In this choice lies the true essence of the Stoic path. 5. Failure is a mirror, not a verdict. Failure has a unique power. It exposes us, laying bare the truth of our efforts, our preparation, and our choices. To some, this exposure is terrifying, and they run from it, cloaking themselves in excuses or blaming circumstances beyond their control. But to the Stoic, failure is not a verdict. It is not the final declaration of one's worth or ability. Instead, it is a mirror, a clear and unyielding reflection of where we stand, what we lack, and what we must do to improve. To see failure as a mirror is to understand that it is a tool for growth, not a condemnation of our character. It is not failure itself that harms us, but our reaction to it. If we allow failure to define us, we surrender to it, becoming trapped in a cycle of despair and self-doubt. But if we embrace failure as a teacher, we open ourselves to its lessons, using it as a guide to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The Stoic leader approaches failure with humility and courage. They do not fear it, for they understand that fear of failure is often more paralyzing than failure itself. To fear failure is to avoid risk, to shrink from opportunities for growth. It is to choose stagnation over progress, safety over potential. But the Stoic knows that failure is not the opposite of success, it is a step toward it. Each failure, if approached with the right mindset, brings us closer to understanding what is needed to succeed. Consider the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Failure is an external event, a result of circumstances, decisions, and actions. It does not define who we are unless we allow it to. The Stoic recognizes this distinction and chooses to focus on what lies within their control, their thoughts, their efforts, and their response to failure. They do not dwell on what has gone wrong, but instead ask, what can I learn? How can I do better next time? Failure in its rawest form is feedback. It reveals gaps in our knowledge, flaws in our strategy, and weaknesses in our execution. It is honest, sometimes brutally so, but it is also invaluable. To ignore this feedback, to turn away from the mirror, is to miss an opportunity to grow. The Stoic, however, stares into the mirror with unwavering resolve. They examine their failures without self-pity or resentment, seeking the lessons hidden within them. The Stoic also understands that failure is not unique to them. It is a universal experience, a shared aspect of the human condition. No one, no matter how skilled or accomplished, is immune to failure. Even the greatest minds and leaders in history have stumbled, faced setbacks, and endured moments of defeat. What sets them apart is not an absence of failure, but their ability to rise from it, to learn from it, and to move forward with renewed determination. When we fail, we are given a choice. We can allow the failure to diminish us, to erode our confidence and leave us fearful of trying again. Or we can use it as fuel, as a catalyst for growth and self-improvement. The Stoic chooses the latter. They understand that every failure is a step in the journey of becoming the best version of themselves. It is not a barrier to success, but a bridge to it, a necessary part of the process. The path of the Stoic is one of resilience. They do not crumble under the weight of failure, nor do they shy away from its lessons. They acknowledge it, learn from it, and continue forward with purpose. This resilience is not born from arrogance or an inflated sense of self, but from a deep understanding of the nature of life. The Stoic knows that failure is inevitable, but defeat is optional. They refuse to be defined by their setbacks, choosing instead to be defined by their response to them. To embrace failure as a mirror is to embrace the truth. It is to see ourselves as we truly are, without illusions or excuses. This honesty is not always comfortable, but it is necessary, for only by seeing our weaknesses can we begin to address them. Only by acknowledging our shortcomings can we work to overcome them. The Stoic leader does not fear this process. They welcome it, knowing that it is through this honest reflection that true growth occurs. Failure, then, is not something to be feared or avoided. It is something to be faced with courage and humility. It is a teacher, a guide, and a mirror that shows us the path to improvement. The Stoic understands this and uses failure as a stepping stone, a tool to build the strength and wisdom needed to succeed. As you navigate the challenges of life, remember this truth: failure does not define you. It reveals you. It is not a verdict on your worth, but a reflection of where you stand. Use it wisely. Learn from it. Grow through it. And when you rise from the lessons it teaches, you will find that failure was not the end of your journey, but a vital part of it, leading you closer to the person you are meant to be. 6. Responsibility is the foundation of freedom. True freedom is not the absence of constraints, nor is it the ability to do whatever one pleases without consequence. True freedom lies in taking responsibility for one's life, choices, and actions. It is the recognition that while we cannot control the circumstances around us, we can always control our response. Responsibility is not a burden, but a path to liberation, a realization that our power lies in our ability to act with purpose and intention, no matter the situation. The Stoic leader understands that without responsibility, there is no autonomy. A life devoid of responsibility is one of dependency, blame, and victimhood. It is a life where the individual surrenders their power to external forces, believing that their fate is determined by others, by chance, or by luck. But the Stoic sees through this illusion. They know that while they cannot dictate every outcome, they are always accountable for their efforts, their decisions, and their character. Responsibility, therefore, is not merely a duty, it is a privilege and a source of strength. Taking responsibility begins with owning our failures and mistakes. It is easy to point fingers, to assign blame to others, or to circumstances beyond our control. But every time we do, we give away a piece of our power. To take responsibility is to reclaim that power, to stand firm in the face of adversity, and to say, "This is my life and I will face it with courage and resolve." This act of ownership transforms failure into an opportunity for growth, as it shifts the focus from external factors to internal change. Epictetus taught, "Who then is invincible? The one who cannot be disheartened by anything outside their reasoned choice." This profound insight captures the essence of responsibility. It is not about controlling the world, but about mastering ourselves. Responsibility liberates us from the shackles of circumstance, because it places the source of our freedom within us, in our ability to choose our response, to act with integrity, and to pursue virtue regardless of the challenges we face. Responsibility is not limited to our failures, it extends to our successes as well. When we achieve something, it is tempting to attribute our success to luck or external support. But while fortune may play a role, it is our preparation, our effort, and our perseverance that truly shape the outcomes we achieve. To take responsibility for success is not arrogance, it is gratitude and humility. It is the acknowledgement of the hard work we have put in, coupled with the awareness that we are part of a larger whole, interconnected with others and with the world. The Stoic also recognizes that responsibility is the foundation of relationships and community. A person who shirks responsibility creates discord, for they become a burden to those around them. But one who takes responsibility becomes a pillar of strength, someone others can rely on and trust. Responsibility fosters respect, builds connection, and inspires others to rise to the same standard. In this way, it not only liberates the individual, but also uplifts those around them, creating a ripple effect of accountability and integrity. It is important to distinguish responsibility from guilt. Responsibility is forward-looking. It asks, "What can I do now? How can I make things right?" Guilt, on the other hand, often traps us in the past, fixating on what went wrong without offering a path forward. The Stoic does not dwell in guilt but channels their energy into action. They understand that responsibility is not about being perfect, but about striving to do better, to learn from mistakes, and to contribute meaningfully to the world. To live a life of responsibility requires discipline and courage. It is not always easy to admit our faults, to accept the consequences of our actions, or to step up when it would be more convenient to step back. But it is precisely in these moments of difficulty that responsibility reveals its true power. Each time we take ownership of our lives, we strengthen our character, build our resilience, and move closer to the freedom that comes from living in alignment with our values. The Stoic leader speaks directly to those who resist responsibility. Do you not see that by avoiding it, you chain yourself to the very things you fear? By blaming others, you give them control over your life. By avoiding accountability, you trap yourself in a cycle of inaction and regret. Responsibility is not a weight, it is the key that unlocks your potential. Embrace it, and you will find strength you never knew you had. To live without responsibility is to live without purpose. It is to drift through life, carried by the currents of chance, without direction or agency. But to take responsibility is to seize the helm, to chart your own course, and to navigate the challenges of life with intention and resolve. It is to understand that while the sea may be stormy, the course is yours to set. Responsibility, then, is the foundation of freedom. It is the recognition that our power lies within us, in our ability to act with courage, to face challenges with integrity, and to pursue a life of meaning and purpose. The Stoic knows that by taking responsibility, they become the author of their own story, the master of their own fate. And in this mastery lies true freedom, the freedom to live fully, authentically, and in harmony with the principles of wisdom and virtue. 7. Blame is the refuge of the weak. Blame is the easy path, the seductive retreat for those who wish to avoid responsibility. It offers a temporary reprieve from the sting of failure, allowing us to shift the burden of our shortcomings onto others, onto circumstances, or even onto fate itself. But this reprieve comes at a great cost. When we blame, we deny ourselves the opportunity to grow, to learn, and to rise above the challenges we face. Blame is not strength, it is weakness masquerading as justification. The Stoic understands this truth with unwavering clarity. To blame others for our struggles is to surrender our power to them. It is to say, my happiness, my success, my growth, they are all in your hands, not mine. This mindset is poison to the soul, for it breeds dependency and strips us of the agency that is our birthright. The Stoic rejects blame, knowing that it is a barrier to self-improvement and a shield for those who fear to confront their own role in their circumstances. Blame often stems from a desire to protect our ego. When we face failure or hardship, it is painful to admit that we may be at fault, that our actions or lack thereof have contributed to our situation. Blame allows us to deflect this pain, to preserve our sense of self by casting ourselves as the victim. But the Stoic leader sees through this illusion. They know that true strength lies not in avoiding discomfort, but in facing it head-on, in acknowledging their own imperfections and working to overcome them. Consider the words of Epictetus: it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When we choose blame, we react poorly. We focus on the external, on what others have done or failed to do, rather than on our own capacity to respond with wisdom and virtue. This focus on the external blinds us to the power we hold within, the power to shape our destiny through our choices and actions. Blame is a distraction from this power, a siren song that lures us away from the path of growth. The Stoic knows that life is filled with challenges, many of which are beyond our control. People will act unfairly, circumstances will conspire against us, and fate will deal us harsh blows. But none of these things define us. What defines us is how we respond. To blame is to dwell in resentment, to allow the actions of others or the whims of fortune to dictate our state of mind. To take responsibility, on the other hand, is to reclaim control, to focus on what we can do to navigate the challenges before us. Blame also fractures relationships and erodes trust. When we blame others, we create division, casting them as adversaries rather than allies. This mindset fosters conflict and breeds resentment, undermining the bonds that hold us together. The Stoic seeks to build bridges, not walls. They understand that unity and mutual understanding are far more valuable than the fleeting satisfaction of assigning blame. By choosing accountability over accusation, they set an example that inspires others to do the same. To abandon blame is not to ignore injustice or wrongdoing. The Stoic does not turn a blind eye to the faults of others or the harm they may cause. But they approach such situations with reason and perspective, seeking solutions rather than scapegoats. They ask, what can I do to address this? How can I contribute to a better outcome? This proactive mindset transforms blame into action, replacing bitterness with purpose. Blame thrives in the shadows of fear and insecurity. It feeds on our doubts, whispering that we are powerless to change our circumstances, that the fault lies elsewhere. But the Stoic shines a light on these shadows, exposing blame for what it truly is, an obstacle to growth and a refuge for those who fear to take ownership of their lives. By rejecting blame, they free themselves to focus on what truly matters: their own thoughts, actions, and character. The Stoic leader speaks with resolve to those who cling to blame. Do you not see that by blaming others, you give them power over you? You make them the masters of your fate, the authors of your story. This is not the way of strength. Look inward, for it is there that your power lies. Accept what is within your control and let go of what is not. Only then will you find the freedom and strength to rise above your circumstances. To live without blame is to live with integrity. It is to take full ownership of one's life, embracing both the triumphs and the failures with humility and courage. It is to recognize that while the world may be unjust, we are not powerless within it. Our thoughts, our actions, and our choices are always our own, and it is through them that we shape our destiny. Blame is the refuge of the weak, but accountability is the fortress of the strong. The Stoic chooses the latter, knowing that it is through accountability that we build resilience, cultivate wisdom, and achieve greatness. By letting go of blame, we free ourselves to focus on what truly matters, to grow, to act with purpose, and to live in accordance with the principles of wisdom and virtue. This is the path of the Stoic, the path to true freedom and fulfillment. 8. Strength lies in acceptance, not denial. The world will never conform perfectly to our desires. Circumstances will arise that challenge us, events will unfold that seem unjust, and people will act in ways that test our patience and resolve. In these moments, we are tempted to resist, to deny reality, and to rage against what we cannot control. But this resistance only deepens our suffering, for to deny reality is to fight a battle we can never win. Strength, the Stoic knows, lies not in denial but in acceptance.